Hello again and thanks for joining. Today I've got a collection of 4 wagons to have a look at, and you've probably guessed already that these are actually made of all metal. They come from a company called Model Power, and these boxes are really bright and proclaim that they have a metal body, metal chassis, metal wheels and metal axles. Everything's metal. That's an interesting proposition because if you have a very long train, then you're going to have a very powerful locomotive to pull all the weight. But if you have a smaller train, then this isn't going to be any problem. Just having a look at the back of the boxes, you can see that there is a range of different metal wagons that you can get from Model Power, which is an American company. You can see their address here, but obviously this is made in China like most things these days. So I think these boxes are really bright and colourful, and I can already feel that these are quite heavy. So let's check out these wagons. We'll start off with this one first, which is a BNSF caboose. You can see that quite clearly inside there. This is number 2271 in the Model Power range. So let's get this open and we'll check it out. So it's definitely a pretty heavyweight wagon, that's for sure. It looks really great as well. It came with a little bag with some extra couplings in it if you don't want KD couplings, which is what it's got as fitted as standard. Let's have a closer look at this. To me, this feels like I have a good quality model in my hands, but as you start to look a bit closer, you see maybe that isn't the case. But it's certainly got a lot of nice detail up here on the roof, all the rivets and bracing across the top here. This little chimney is actually made of plastic. But you'll see straight away that we don't have any glazing in this at all, where it should have. I suppose that's an easy fix. If you've got some clear plastic, you could just add that in. But I think it should have had that from the factory. The printing on the side is really good. There's no problems with the masking on the colour of the orange and the yellow. The BNSF and the number down here is printed very clearly. And there's a nice level of detail here into the metal, like these parts here and the ribs coming down. They're not perhaps as well defined as possibly a plastic model, but you can certainly see that they're there. At each end we've got little steps coming down and a veranda and a representation of chains there in between the gangway. This is all made of plastic and added in. Underneath, well, we've got some bracing here and representation of the tanks for the braking, but it isn't really that well detailed. But it is all made of metal, but we do have plastic trucks here. The trucks do have good detail on them though, and these blackened wheels which revolve pretty well. So much so, as soon as I put this down on the stage, it found the slightest incline and it was off. And you've got to watch that, I guess, because these are quite heavy. It is going to roll pretty well. There is a bit of suspension travel here as well on the bogies. They do move around a little bit and they're just screwed in. So, you know, if you're worried about that, you can screw them up a bit more. Also screwed in are the couplings. You can see it here. And we did have extra ones in the box, so you can easily swap these over if you need to. The paint finish is actually really good on this. It's very flat and a nice matte colour. And overall, this is a decent looking model. I think it's a bit let down by not having glazing on it, but aside from that, I think it's pretty good. So let's open one of the other ones. So this is the next one we're going to have a look at, the Boxcar with the Armour logo on it. So the box here has got some sticker damage here, unfortunately, and at the end you can see it's number 2229, a 41-foot metal reefer. So let's get this open and we'll check it out. Well, this one feels much heavier than the caboose, that's for sure. And again, we've got some extra couplings in case we want to swap them over. But let's have a closer look at this model. So it does feel like a much heavier wagon, this one. So the colour here, we've got black and this kind of orangey yellow colour with the printing on it really good. The armour does have a bit of a sheen on it. You can see the light catching it there, but the rest of it is all matte and very crisply printed. It's very good. And we have a black area here where the step is beside the door, which has been printed on as well. This looks as though it maybe has a little bit of a chip of the paint just here, and that could be because, you know, these are second-hand models. I do like the door though. It's got nice rivet detail. Again, it's not as well defined as possibly a plastic model is, but it just has the right amount, I think, and it just catches the light good. Got some grab handles here, which is just part of the main piece of metal, and we have ladders going up the side here as well, again, just in the main piece of metal. At this end with the brake wheel, that's an extra piece that's been added in plastic. The rest of it is all metal, including the ladder, and we have the usual KD coupler down here. You can see up on the roof, all black with nice rib detail. These hatches actually look really good, and they've got rivet detail around them, and the walkway up there is also looking pretty good. I think that's actually a piece of plastic that's been added on to the top, but the hatches are part of the main moulding and made in metal. No brake wheel on the other end, but we do have this printing at the top there, which is again very crisp. And underneath this one, we've got a bit more detail than on the caboose. We can see some cross planking and the bracing here, and again the brake gears, but it's not very well defined. We've got a different style of bogies on these, but they're plastic again, and they look very delicate, very thin and well defined. I'm wondering how strong these are going to be though, because this is a heavy wagon and those look like quite flimsy little bogies. The wheels are black and metal and again revolve pretty well as well. And overall it looks really good, this wagon. But let's move on to the next one and see what else we've got. So this is the next one. It's obviously a tanker wagon from Mobil. And at the end you can see it's number 2191, a 40-foot metal tank car. So let's get this open and we'll check this one out. So first impressions, it's quite a neat looking tanker here, and again we've got the same couplings. I think that's common on all of these. Let's have a closer look at this one as well. So one of the things I've noticed on this tank wagon is it's got some little wear and tear up here on the top of the tank. I think that's just with the packaging, and I guess that's going to be a problem with these because they're so heavy they're going to move around unless they're, you know, held securely in that packaging. But this is quite an old school tanker. It's a metal frame down the bottom here with checker effect moulded into it. We have plastic ladders going up to the top dome here. I think the top of the dome is actually made of plastic and the rest of it is made of metal, and it looks to be a two-piece construction. The printing on it is really good. Pegasus there is absolutely fantastic, and the writing is great as well, although it does suffer a little bit where the handrail attaches to the tank just here and here. And talking of the handrail, it's a piece of metal wire all the way around this model, and I can't actually see where it joins, which is really good. On the underside, on the frame, a bit better representation of the brake gear in the tanks here, and we have the same bogies as what we saw in the Boxcar just a moment ago, and the same kind of wheels which revolve really good. And also the coupling is exactly the same. I do like these little steps here. They're made of metal, very fine as well. And also these parts here just on the side of the tank where the bracing is, that looks really good too. So overall this is a neat looking model and I like the printing on it as well. Let's move on to the final one. So we have another bright Boxcar here, the State of Maine products. This one is number 2226 and it's a 41-foot metal reefer as well. So let's get this one open. Well, there's no missing the decoration in this one. I think it weighs exactly the same as the earlier Boxcar, but it's certainly decorated very differently. Let's have a closer look. So yeah, this is exactly the same moulding, but this time it's been done in blue. But we do see some problems with the masking. There's a bit here where it's fuzzy on the red, and you can see it here where it goes over the ladder. It's not quite right just in the corner there. But the printing of the words is pretty good, apart from the products down here, which seems to be a little bit off on the red. But smaller writing like this here is very crisp and clear. I guess the decoration of this model is not quite right, but it certainly looks quite bright and interesting. Up on the top it's the same roof as we saw, but we do have the walkway in a black piece of plastic this time around. But aside from that, it's exactly the same model with the same trucks and couplings and bracing underneath. So it's certainly eye-catching, but nothing different from the other Boxcar. Anyway, I've been going on about all these being very heavy, so let's put these on the scales and we'll see what they weigh. So the Boxcars weigh 315 grams. The tanker is 218, and the caboose is 224 grams. So Model Power's metal wagons. What an interesting concept to make these all in metal and for them to be so heavy. You saw on the scales there that some of these weigh more than the actual locomotives that might be pulling them. And I think you might have some problems with traction and getting these moving if you have a very long train and you don't have the right loco. What I like about these is that you have a feel in your hands like you've got something of quality, and the mouldings are on the most part pretty good with an acceptable level of detail, and with some of them, especially like the Boxcars around the doors, I think it actually looks really good. There are some compromises here though, like for example the State of Maine Boxcar is not printed that well and the caboose doesn't have any glazing, which is a bit of a disappointment. An easy fix though. But Model Power isn't one of the most detailed of manufacturers, so it is quite interesting they've gone with the all metal approach here. But I actually think it's kind of worked pretty good, and especially if you have a garden railway. So these would be fantastic for being outside because they're so robust, they could fall off the track, take a few knocks and not break at all. Apart from possibly the trucks, which seem like the Achilles heel because they're not made of metal like the rest of the wagon, but you could easily replace them if they got broken. The other thing I'm a bit concerned about is the couplings. Because they're made of plastic and they're quite thin, if you've got a long train, they might actually break as well. I've got no evidence of that happening, but it's just a hunch. In terms of price, you can pick these up for around about £10 a wagon, which is exactly the same for a plastic wagon. So I guess the choice is yours. Personally, I kind of like the idea of these. I think they've got a lot of options and they feel like a quality product, even though maybe they're not quite. But that's just my thoughts on these. What do you think of these, and do you have a favourite? For me, I think my favourite is the Armour Boxcar, so I'm going to put that on the turntable if it'll take the weight. Thanks for checking these out with me. I really appreciate your time, and I will see you on my next video.
So model trains, model worlds, choo-choo, model trains, in tiny worlds, choo-choo, model trains, model worlds, choo-choo, model trains, in tiny worlds, choo-choo.